as part of that. So just a little bit of background, because I know we've got a couple of guests that have joined us. Gender Networks started, sorry, if I can just ask everyone to go on mute. We can just mute. Jade, if you can mute yourself. Thank you. So Gender Networks was started 14 years ago. God, I can't believe it's been that long. As a way to bring together network chairs and co-chairs to share best practice and to hear from prevalent speakers in our world, and sometimes giving us views to societal things that are going on for women that kind of sit outside our networks, but also to kind of steer you in the right direction around some things that you may wish to cover. So for those of you that are members, obviously we're your phone a friend if you're pulling everything together. We have 4 meetings a year, but this is one of the bonus sessions that we run. So we tend to run these when big societal issues happen for women, as a way of just informing you and finding out what everyone else is doing to respond to that. So think about kind of, you know, the tragic incidents around Sabina Nesta and Sarah Everard last year, which spawned a number of sessions on sexism in society, but also things like, you know, International Men's Day, what's everyone doing, what's our approach to that, and then obviously this one being for International Women's Day. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit around the theme and give you some ideas. And then for those of you that are already going to be doing something for International Women's Day, because this is around sharing best practice, I'd really like for you to come on, take your cameras off, or you don't have to if you don't want to, and just talk to us around what you've got planned for IWD. So again, for those of you who are just joining us at the moment, if you can just pop in who you are and the companies you represent in the chat, and I will get going. So here we go. So International Women's Day, it's been around for what, 103 years now. Every year there is a theme, or it has been for kind of the last 10 years, driven by an independent company that picked up IWD. There's a whole website there that's full of resources for you to download. But every year they pick a theme. And in the last kind of 5 years, they've also picked a pose. Some of them have been popular. I'm not particularly a fan of the one this year, but we'll come on to that. But some people have kind of embraced it and stuff like that. I'm just double checking everyone can see my slides. For those with cameras on, just give me a nod. Fabulous. So the theme is Embrace Equity, and this one's long been coming. I'm a big fan of equity over equality. I'm going to talk you through, we've got a little video as well to show you around what equity means and the difference between kind of equality. So you can see what the theme kind of involves. You can pick this up from the website, but it's about us fully embracing equity, and that basically we will never achieve equality without the equity piece coming first. So equity, and again, I'm going to go into more detail about it, assumes that we all have the same set of tools when we know that everybody starts from different positions, and that could be to do with your gender, your race, your sexuality. Every time there's an intersectional factor that's brought in, we take one step back from the start line of any race. So addressing equity is hugely important, and it should be on all of our agendas. So again, this is just not about talk, this is about action. So how do we kind of drive those equitable things that we need in terms of policies, or, you know, things that we do? How do we drive that with equity at the very, very front of our mind? Now, I'm mindful that a lot of you are not in those big decision-making roles where you can set the cultural line within your organisations. However, don't underestimate the power of the network and who you represent in terms of pushing some of this stuff up and where it kind of needs to be. So you can read the whole kind of statement there, you know, stereotypes, calling out discrimination, attention to bias, seek out inclusion. And it frustrates me that we're still talking about these things, you know, when, you know, gender has probably been brought into the forefront around about 2010. We really started to kind of push the needle around kind of gender equality and subsequently equity. So inclusion and belonging is obviously a big part of that. So equality is the goal, equity is the journey. It's kind of how we get there. So I've put the link on this slide, and you'll get this pack anyway, and obviously this recording, so you guys can go and have a look. There's some free stuff on that website that you can download, leaflets, logos and stuff like that. So it is a good source should you choose to go up this route. As I say, remember, these themes are set by an independent. They're not the de facto. There's 2 others that you can potentially choose from. And again, I'm going to walk you through that in a second. So a member of the Gender Networks board is the fantastic Bia Gitnu. She was the global head of D&I at HSBC. and she is currently at the cricket board, but she's done us a little video that explains to us the difference between equity and equality. And now I'm looking at this video, and of course it's not going to play for me, but as a backup I have it here on YouTube. Can everyone see that? See, technology. So we'll just spend a couple of minutes with Birgit while she explains the difference so that we're all clear.
Hi there, my name is Birgit New. I am a senior DEI advisor and a very long-time friend of Gender Networks, and I am here today to talk to you about the difference between equity and equality. Now, why is this important? Well, of course, this year, our International Women's Day theme for the 8th of March is #EmbraceEquity. So it's important to make sure that we understand what the differences between equity and equality are. We know that this is an area of confusion for many people. We want to make sure that we're driving the right kinds of conversations. International Women's Day. So the purpose of me here today is to talk to you a little bit about that. So even though these two terms of equity and equality are often used quite interchangeably, and in fact, many times when we see the E in DEI, sometimes it's one and sometimes it's the other, but the concepts are actually quite different. And the objective really for both of them is fairness. Equity and equality are basically two different ways to try and achieve that. Equality basically means that everybody is treated in the exact same way, regardless of what they need or any other individual differences that they may have. Equity means that everybody is provided with what they need to succeed in order to achieve the same outcome. So as an example of this, if we're thinking about women's networks and what our organizations typically do, in an equality model, we would give all women access to the same kind of leadership training if we were trying to help them get promoted into a director role, for example. But in an equity model, we would recognize that different women might need different kind of support in order to achieve the same outcome. In this case, again, that promotion to a director role. So that's one way of looking at it. Another thing that you might have seen or be familiar with is a little infographic that tends to make the rounds. It is a picture on one side of three children of very different heights. They are trying to see over a fence to see a baseball game on the other side of the fence. If we give all three children a box, the same size box to stand on, for two of the kids, they are then tall enough in order to see over the fence. But the third child, even with the same size box as the other two kids, is not tall enough in order to be able to see over and still experiences that barrier. So again, that would be an equality model because all three kids are given the same size box. In an equity model, there's recognition that what we're trying to do is enable all three kids to be able to see over the fence, so they all get to stand on different size boxes according to their height that enable them to achieve that end goal of being able to see over. So again, these are challenging concepts. They have slightly different historical contexts as well. For those of you who've been working in this space for some time, you will recognize that we were probably mostly talking about equality up until about maybe 5 years ago or so. Equality is really one of the central principles behind democracy, and it is based on that belief that all people should have the same kinds of opportunities in order to be successful and to lead more productive lives. It is all about fairness. It's also very closely connected to concepts of things like meritocracy, again, which there's been a lot of discussion about in the diversity space. It's a fantastic idea, but what we often see is that it doesn't always work quite as it should in practice. Now, the idea of equality is also, important when we think about everybody in society wanting to be able to achieve based on their efforts and what they put in, rather than getting ahead in society based on their status or on their background. And equality was also really important if we think about legal frameworks and the Equality Act here in the UK. It's all about trying to make sure that different groups of people have equal standing or equal treatment within the law. But more recently, there's been a much bigger debate about whether equality goes far enough in terms of everybody being able to achieve their diversity and inclusion ambitions, or is equity really the concept that we need to be spending more time on, because it recognizes that everybody doesn't start from the exact same place in society, and everybody doesn't need the exact same amount of help in order to achieve the same outcome. We know that different people might have much more challenging conditions or different circumstances that are making it harder for them. Even if they put in the same effort, they will still not be able to achieve the same kind of end goal. And equity is really important as we think about people who've been historically disadvantaged, where it will always be just that much more challenging for them to be successful. And when we think about what is fair for different people, it's not about giving them the same thing, but it's about being really conscious of what the starting points for different groups of people are. So equity really takes that kind of historical background and other factors into consideration when thinking about what is fair. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more detail. Again, key things to remember here is that equity and equality are not the exact same thing, even though we use those terms interchangeably. Equality means that everybody is treated the exact same way, regardless of their difference. For equity, it means that everybody's provided with what it is that they need to succeed. So again, hope that's been really, really helpful. Hope you all have fantastic International Women's Day events and activities, and I look forward to hearing more about it at an upcoming meeting of Gender Networks. Thanks so much.
Fabulous. So bear with my camera back on. So hopefully you've all been able to hear that. And then again, what we'll do is we'll send around the link as well, so that you can kind of watch that again. So that image that Birgit was referencing there is this one. This is the one that tends to do the rounds a lot, but it's a really good way of explaining basically what she did. So giving everyone the same box, if you've got kids at different heights, is not going to enable them to see the football game. So you can pick up these images off the internet, but that's kind of what she was alluding to. I've put some slides in here just to kind of narrative. There's a couple of people emailed into us, Gender Networks, and said, have you got any blurb that really explains it? So these are just ones that we've picked up that we think, explain it in a different way. If there's a narrative that you want to attach, there's a second one here around kind of what does equity mean. So in terms of ideas, where do we take that equity and how do we turn that into something that is tangible, that has a theme around it for this year's International Women's Day? So some of these have been crowdsourced from previous years around things that you can do, but it might just give you some ideas. And at the end of this, hopefully you guys are going to tell me what you're up to, because then that all adds to the kind of best practice, get my words out. So we can have a week of events, so different sessions, different time zones, 30 days of gender equality. I can definitely give you 30 topics that you could focus on. Maybe you haven't got the resources to do that much work, so you could just have like 7 days of equity. I personally think if we centre everything around the 8th of March, it stops you seeing other things as well. I always kind of encourage people to do things throughout March, but actually, in the nature of the business that we're all in, do things kind of throughout the year. But this is kind of a really good opportunity where everyone's ears are pricked up and everyone's kind of listening. A good one that is, what does equity mean to me? So this talks about kind of the lived experience of individuals. And if you think back to that box, what sort of box do you need in order to have an equal stab at whatever it is that you wish to achieve? What does that look like? The power of storytelling and lived experience, cannot be underestimated. You could run a campaign where you even 10 women or 20 women across the globe, maybe even, talk about, stereotypes around certain different protected characteristics or stuff like that. But what does equity kind of mean for them? Social media campaigns, we've seen this in the past. again, as I say, I'm not, there was a really interesting thing for those of you who are connecting me on LinkedIn, and for those of you who are not, please ping me a request. I put something out yesterday. There was a coach and she's developed 100 things that you can do around International Women's Day, because she was basically saying that, you know, we don't have to follow the theme, which I totally agree with, and that the cheesy hug, sorry, I think it's a bit cheesy, the cheesy hug, when there are so many things going on in the world of women, that it's not just about having a selfie and giving ourselves a cuddle. There are bigger fish to fry. So I get where she was coming from, and again, just a perspective, but some people don't choose to do, whether it's push for power or all the other ones that have been there in the past. You know, that happy smiley thing is, we want to have real kind of difficult conversations, is not perhaps the image that we want to portray, but that's for you guys to think on, right? Because again, there should be a positive spin on IWD as well. So social media campaigns around hashtags, this is what equity looks like, is just one of those ideas. Storytelling, I've touched on that one. Zoom brainstorms. So perhaps what you want to do is look across your organization and maybe look at some of the policies that are there and say, well, actually, if I think about in the grand scheme of individuals and their different characteristics and their different intersectionalities, what is unfair, what looks unfair? And perhaps what you want to do is come and brainstorm the fairness aspect to make that more equitable, whether it's a process or, you know, something, a product, it could be anything, and do that, and then come out of International Women's Day with, and I've put it down further on down the board, like an idea for change or a white paper that you may have written that's come from the Women's Network. So something that's quite tangible that would drive change in the organisation. So other things, CEO address, getting them to talk about what equity looks like. Nothing like a message coming from the top. If you can twist your seniors' arms to do that, I think it puts it firmly in the front of people's minds. Create your own pledge. Again, you could do it, you know, if we all chose to do something that was more equitable, or if we all pledged to call out things that are not equitable, you know, what would that kind of look like? Senior sponsorship event, again, speed networking, let people share their lived experience. This is what it's like to live in my shoes, kind of thing. That could be something, and again, it creates relationships. So I've got a few of those booked. Focus groups, again, how do we remove some of the biases that are there and some of the barriers? Across the world with 20 women, what equity looks like for us in the UK may be completely different if we talk to someone from some of our regional offices. So sometimes, especially in global organisations where we're dealing with each other, what are the challenges that those women face in different kind of parts of the world? It's very educational. And again, to me, it fosters a global inclusiveness as well. We could go to the men around allyship and what's equity, what equity looks like for them and what they're going to do, you know, for International Women's Day to make things more equitable for women. So this could be whether it's leadership progression, whether it's something they're going to personally do, but we can kind of bring the men in. I don't think IWD should just be about women. It's not just our problem to solve. We need everyone at the table. So support female-led businesses. Maybe you haven't got the resources to do anything. Partner with an external organisation and tag off the back of what they're doing. Perhaps you want to do something. So, for example, something that we're doing, We Are the City, is we're doing a Trailblazer listing, which we did back in 2021. And these are, we're raising the profile of 50 incredible women and what they've done around equity. So think people like that have campaigned around period poverty, you know, upskirting, you know, those kinds of individuals. But maybe you just want to do an educational piece for IWD that, have you heard about these incredible individuals that are changing society? So maybe there's an education piece for other people to know about these things that are going on outside in the world. So charity speakers as well, engaging with some charities, and I've put some in the deck a little bit further on. So other ideas, so for example, you don't want to adopt that theme at all. You could go around all of the other things that we have in terms of challenges. So equal pay, getting behind women in politics, gender pay gap, which obviously is still there, still exists. Intersectional equity, what does that look like? Healthcare, you know, big ticket item. Domestic violence against women and girls. Leadership, maybe that's the kind of theme that you want to focus on. Resilience, mental health, sorry, leadership's there twice. Mental health and things like that. Sorry, I've realised that's not on full screen. Or you can choose a different theme. So there are the United Nations theme, and this year that one is driven around technology. and innovation. And I think I love the play on words of digital. So this is access for everyone to have access to technology and all the bells that kind of go with it. So there could be something that you do on the tech side. So I know some companies have got some kit that they're donating, you know, some companies are working in schools, some companies are encouraging their staff to engage with other charities and NGOs in other countries to teach them digital skills. So that could be something, again, that you could go off and look into. So you don't have to stick with the Embrace Equity theme. You could do a mishmash of all of these and come up with something that kind of works for you. I know one of the major banks that's part of Gender Networks, they don't go with the theme, they create their own every single year. So then we have, if you want to go another different route entirely, you could look at the goal 5, which is the sustainability goal. So I mean, this kind of delves into quite kind of, you know, more the deeper women aims across the world. So have a look at goal 5 around gender equality. There may be some stuff that you want to pick up from that, and just to make that a little bit easier, if anyone asks you why, you've only got to read some of those statistics to know that we've made progression in some areas, but we have got a hell of a long way to go. So again, you're welcome to use any of the stuff that's in the deck. It belongs to us. So I'm more than happy for you guys to use it. So just to give you a little bit on some of those ESG targets, because it maybe you can pull out a theme for them. So obviously we've mentioned it before, discrimination against women and girls, what we call VWAG, harmful practices, so child early forced marriage. This one's a big one because this one came up in like COVID, around recognising the value of unpaid care and domestic work. So a number of different stats showed how much that the women were doing the lion's share of work, do it during lockdown. And there's some research that's going on around saying for those women who are still working from home post lockdown, we're still doing a lot of that as the guys kind of, you know, go back into the office. Leadership is in there as well, so you could attach it to the leadership side of it that I spoke about earlier on. Women's health is in there as well, so again a play on that theme. Equal rights for women to economic resources, so you could do women in finance, you could do some finance awareness for women as well. Technology is there as well. So these are, I mean, these don't change this ESG goal and our targets and stuff like that, but again you could kind of go off the back of one of the ESG ones as a theme, should you so wish. So we have a whole database of speakers. If you haven't got your speakers yet, most of them will kind of be really getting booked now. I know like my particular diary is busy, and a number of speakers that we're getting to speak for us on things. So if you don't have speakers and you're after a particular topic or a particular theme, come to us and we'll point you in the right direction. All of our speakers are intersectional. You know, we're not going to give you speakers that all kind of look the same. They're either authors, they could be ministers, they could be people that run their own companies. One of the big kind of issues that, and again, it was a LinkedIn thread that started last I think end of last week's on my profile, is around the payment of speakers. So if these individuals work for themselves, this is how they pay their bills, right? This is how they put food on their tables. So they need to be paid. So for companies that approach people to speak for them for free, we're really going against the very grain of what International Women's Day and supporting women is about. Now, sometimes I appreciate, you know, you can only do so much with what you're given, and that network budgets are not as big as they should be. We're seeing that coming out the data in the survey, which you guys will get to see in February. But you need to kind of push back to your organisations to get the right budget to pay the right people. At the end of the day, you know, if you equate it into, you've got 200 people or 100 people, for what you pay a speaker, it's like a £5 or a tenner, you know, per head or something like that. So speaker fees can raise anything from, you know, £2,000 right up to the big speakers. So I'll give you an example. We were looking at, for one of our conferences, we love Stephen. So Daria, the CEO, Stephen. If you want Stephen, you're looking at about £35,000, right? So Stephen's very expensive, but there are lots of incredible women out there that you know that you can engage with, but their speaker fees will be in that range. And also you can speak to them about, you know, can you have it recorded? You can have this global. So think about how you get a little bit more from the speakers that you engage with, rather than them just pitching up for 20-30 minutes or an hour and delivering a session. You know, can they record a little video for you before the session so that it entices people to attend? You know, so there's little things that you can do with speakers so that you get a little bit more intellectual capital out of the money that you're paying. So giving you the insights there. So again, if you're looking for something, this is just a scattering of some of our speakers that have spoken for us in the past, but they're awesome and they're excellent. And even if you're going to a charity, because sometimes people think, oh, that's a good way to go to get a free speaker, donate to the charity is the right thing to do there, because obviously they are a charity, they get no government support. So some of the charities to align with, this is just, again, just some of the ones that, you know, the wonderful Smart Works and the work that they do to dress women and give women the confidence to go off and get jobs. And they've got such a success rate. Refuge, again, a massive one for us, especially in the light of recent events that just seem to keep happening. So Rosa Fund for Women and Girls, Young Women's Trust, the Girls Network, the Eve Appeal. I don't know if you know, this week is Cervical Cancer Awareness Week. So there's been a lot of stuff going on from the Eve Appeal around getting yourselves checked out. So I would be missing a trick if I didn't mention that. You've got From Babies with Love as well. So there's lots of different charities that you can kind of engage with and do something with. So just earlier on, I talked about some of those events, and this is like just an example of some of the things you could do on a low budget. So not engaging with speakers, you could do a CEO kickoff at the start of the week, Men as Allies, panel event, policy brainstorm, an audience with perhaps someone external, but again, if you're on a lower budget, and then you could do something that involves everyone as well. So just a little few examples. If you've got some other kind of events as well, you could have keynote speakers in there throughout the week, but you may just want to do one of these. But this is just kind of giving you some ideas if you did want to spread it across the week, or you wanted to spread it across the month as well. So that's kind of it from us, just to whet your appetite. First of all, any questions on that before I open it up to all of you to share some of the stuff that you are doing? So does anyone want to come on and does anyone want to ask me any questions at all, or ask me from any recommendations before we hand out to the floor? I've either done a stellar presentation or you're just all being quiet. So I'm going to ask some of you to share what you're doing, because that obviously that's just coming from us, but you guys may have had some other incredible ideas. So now I'm probably going to pick on some people. So I'm going to start with Akua from LSEG. So you guys normally do some incredible stuff. What are you up to? I think you might be on mute, Akua. We can't hear you.
Do that again.
There we go.
Yeah, I always forget I got that on. Yeah, no, we've got a lot going on because we're celebrating 50 years of women investing on the stock exchange. So we're going to kind of bring that together and kind of showcase female founders, and maybe even do a reel of like women through time, to start off with the eldest person going all the way. And we're also going to do an inspirational kind of event with about 75 to 100 young girls. So we're talking about skills like how to inspire them, how to empower them. And we're going to do that with an organization called Glam Leadership. So they're based in the US. And then from a tech perspective, we're looking to do an event with girls into coding, around doing some kind of hackathon. So we're trying to mix it up in different areas. And then that's where the fundraising and kind of charity work will come in as well, and volunteering for our staff. So it's a mixture of like business, volunteering, fundraising, different aspects of women in different like tech, etc.
And are you going across the month, Akua, or are you just doing 1 week?
Oh, no, we're going across the month, the whole month. Yeah, we've got market open, close. And also we're going to do an element of neurodiversity. So we're going to have a speaker in that's talking about her said experience of having dyslexia and ADHD from an intersectionality lens too, because it's Neurodiversity Celebration Week on the 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on.
Fabulous. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, anyone else? Sue, what are you up to?
Hello, hi there. Yeah, well, we're really lucky. We partner with the Global Institute for Women's Leadership, which is chaired by Julia Gillard, and we always produce a piece of data every year. So we will present that at the there, but we'll also use that as a centerpiece for our global remote event. But I came today because we're still at the planning stage, to be honest. So we'll have that as a centerpiece. But one of the things I was thinking about, as you were talking about speakers, and we're obviously going to be looking for speakers. We'll probably talk to clients about partnering, is if anybody wants me or one of the team to share some of that data around the week. We won't actually be launching it until the Monday or the Tuesday of that week, and sort of swap speakers. So I could come and speak and present the data, and they could come and speak and share some of their experiences. That might be one way if your budgets are low. So it's a thought, yeah.
And we've had that before. You know, we had one year, we had one company that had space, and then we had another company that had no space, but they had budget for a speaker, and we basically worked together.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to consider. And again, we can connect you in to other companies as well.
I can share with you last year's presentation, and I haven't got yet, but I can get quite quickly what this year's questions are going to be, so you can get a sense of what the data might be. And I'll send that to you anyway, Vanessa, as soon as I get it.
Yeah,
so you can share that.
Fun for us to publish anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, who else have I got on here? So does anyone want to come on before I start picking on people?
I'm happy to say what Janice Henderson are doing.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi. Hi, Vanessa. So our network is working on just doing a video. So in the past, we've done it on LinkedIn with just a headshot and a quote. And I think a few years prior, it was why International Women's Day was important to them. But this time we're going to make a video, which is slightly more engaging, especially on LinkedIn. That's where we're planning to post it, obviously internally, but LinkedIn performance on videos tends to be higher than images. And it also means we can get lots of people in one video rather than do lots of continuous posts. So it's free. We just need to sort of convince people to do it. But we are actually taking it. In the past, when we done the quotes, it was actually more men that actually spoke about it. Whereas this time, I think we're just targeting women across the business and talking about their experience as, I suppose, being a woman in the industry, that sort of thing. We're in a similar position with the question that we're asking. We've sort of got to get it approved by like PR and make sure our social media team are happy with it. But yeah, that's our idea. And internally, we're actually just going to be doing some drinks. And I know it sounds a bit sort of naff, but it goes down really well, and we're going to do it on the day. I think it's a Wednesday, is it? It's Wednesday. Should have a lot of people in the office, so yeah, I think it will be good to actually we'll just get together, and it's a bit more social without being, if people attend an event, sometimes our attendance hasn't been as good as maybe we want it to be, because I think there is still a bit of a stigma, especially with the men attending those events. Well, it's International Women's Day, or I think they feel unfortunately a bit put off. So yeah, we're just phrasing it through as some drinks and that, just sort of to celebrate together.
We did the same thing last year. We did a campaign of 50 women's videos. You can still see them on YouTube.
Oh, really?
They're amazing. And it was that we just asked people just for 60 seconds, around what the theme kind of meant to them. And it's great because you can share them on socials. You can show them in your meetings and stuff like that. Yeah. Another idea, another company that I spoke to in the week, they're in their communal areas. They just boards up in like their canteens and stuff like that around what equity means for them, and there's some postcards there, so as people have their lunch they can go and pin up things and everyone can read them. So I thought that was quite a nice,
that's a nice idea.
Cheaper way of doing something as well.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thanks, Vicky. Bianca, I know you just come on camera. You wanted to share.
So at the DTCC, it's funny what you're interested in, what you just mentioned about the board. So we're doing a combination. We're going to have a keynote on the actual day itself that is more around the kind of we're looking for a kind of a professional development angle to tie into that embrace and equity. But the theme that we're going to use more for the ongoing activity through the month is that one more about celebrating women who tell their stories. So we're going to have that local presence of getting the senior leadership, the female senior leadership in all of our locations to share their stories, so we can have them on boards in the local offices, but then also use it as a blog series throughout the month just to keep that theme going.
But
I love that idea from I'm so pleased you shared it about the UN theme about the digital, because we were thinking about what element of CSR we can tie into it, and I think that's a great idea actually. So I'll dig into that a bit more.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Barbara, what are you up to? Barbara Hamilton. Picking on people now. You're on mute.
I thought I'm just going to hide a bit. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we are still in planning phase. We're exploring some collaborations. So if people are looking for the opportunity to collaborate with Simmons & Simmons, we'd love to hear from you. We are sort of looking client-facing and internal activity. So some that are picked up by myself and Andrea. We're both new co-chairs of TNOC. Andrea's on the call, so I'll wave to Andrea. So we're exploring. It's new for us. This is the first time we've looked at International Women's Day. And also, I think just thinking about the two themes that are coming out. I'm with you. I'm not sure I want to take a picture of myself hugging myself, but the tech theme, I think, is also something that we're looking at. So yeah, definitely exploring further on, possibly in our speaker. But yeah, there's some really great ideas coming across on this session. So
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, I think I've got someone from Bank of England. You guys normally do something amazing. Have I got Bank of England on here? No, I'm sure I saw it. Right. Does anyone else want to come and share what they're doing, even if they're in the initial planning stages, even if they want to bounce some ideas while there's all of us here? Anybody? What about you, Shalom? Shalom, what are you guys up to?
Hi.
I will just pick on you.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Thank you. I was actually waiting for if someone else wanted to turn on the camera and speak. So I work for Marsh and more specifically the Balance Committee. And so we have been planning several things for the International Women's Day week. And it's mostly to celebrate and focus on the huge internal female talent that we have. So we have spoken about we're still at an initial phase in terms of kind of getting the logistics together. But two of the events we're planning is one that is being explored is looking at the international piece and getting together several women across the regions, including different countries, to bring them together and share their experiences. Then the other one is that we're hoping to launch that week a female forum, so kind of a safe space for female talent within Marsh to come forward and kind of share their experiences in working for Marsh. So kind of taking that as feedback for Balance to work on issues that perhaps we wouldn't be aware of. And this is kind of in the back of the results from the cultural survey. Then the other things that we're kind of looking at is partnering with our multicultural network. So that's the CRG at Marsh kind of focuses on ethnicity and race, and so really trying to find a good angle to bring and maybe discuss this around Black female colleagues and touch upon, three big themes, which is kind of allyship, the equity side, and I just had my partner coming in. It really distracted me. So allyship, equity, and intersectionality. So yeah, this is pretty much what we've been kind of discussing together as a group and trying to involve senior and senior executive sponsors as well in this event.
I really like those three pillars there: allyship, equity, and intersectionality. And last year we did, for International Women's Day, we had, because it was Break the Bias, and we had a panel of 4 people from across the world being interviewed by, it happened to be a guy, and he asked, how have you broken the bias and what's been your experience? And we got, a guy, a young guy from, well, actually yes, a young looking guy from Thailand, and he talked about how actually he felt he was biased against because he just looked young and nobody ever took him seriously. And we had an Indian woman who worked in many different cultures and felt she had to reinvent herself every time. And so that was a really nice thing. You just naturally get the intersectionality from just having a panel with 4 different people from across the world asking the same question to each. So that worked very well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know whether Ben from Sky, you guys normally do some amazing stuff. It's Ben's with me.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Ben. How are you?
Hi, I'm
What
very
are you
well.
up
Thanks
to
so
at
much for having me.
Sky?
So we are we're being slightly cheeky about this because we're effectively trying to become so I run the Men's Allied Network on the Women at Sky
Yep.
Gender Equality Network. We've got the kind of standard things, like we've got Sophie Williams who's coming in to do a talk with us. We've also reached out to a lady called Calypso Barnum Bob who's going to do a development talk with us. But we've effectively we've kind of asked all of our various different strands to kind of activate. We reserved a large amount of space in our building and then essentially gave it over to various different areas. So I work in sports as a day job. So we're going to try and put together a panel discussion on equity and equality in sports and what that looks like. We've even had the catering team have decided they're going to try and do something for International Women's Day. We're not quite sure what that looks like yet, but it sounds quite exciting. And we're doing, and as part of the Allies Network, we've been running a kind of conversations strand where we get people together, small teams together, and just talk about, have like fairly free roaming conversations about themes. And we're using the theme of International Women's Day to kind of get men together to talk about what equity and equality means, specifically with relation to allies. So basically effectively going out to all our various different strands that we run throughout the year, and activating them and kind of putting them in one place.
And do you know what? I love that. I absolutely love that. Using, if you've got a male allies network, never is there a better time to kind of engage and encourage those conversations. So that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ben. I knew you'd be doing something. You always do super things over at Sky. What about Beatrice from Squire Patton Boggs? Have we got Beatrice on? I don't know if she's still with us. I speak a lot for Squire, so I know.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, sorry.
There she is.
I was
always doing amazing things.
I was hoping you'd keep me. I think we are, as you may know, we've got various offices across the UK, and I'm based in London. So I think our DEI office are working on various initiatives, but I'm trying to focus on what we can do in London. Slightly obstacle that we are facing now is that we are between offices, so we don't have a space to organize something. So that's why I was really keen to join today, just to have ideas about what we can think about. And in one of your slides, speed dating was mentioned, and I think it could be a nice idea to throw out there to speak with colleagues on the day. So I'm gonna think about it a bit more and come up with ideas.
Yeah, go and speak to Wendy Bradshaw.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, because we've done a few of them with you, so we might be able to help out there.
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay. What about Louise Walker, BNP Paribas? Have we still got Louise with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you indeed. What are you guys up to?
Literally had just come off mute, so you must have read my mind. Sorry, I can't. I'm not on camera. So I am very new as a co-chair of the Mixed City work at BNP. So first time joining one of these calls. So firstly, thank you all so much, because I've come away feeling very inspired, if a bit panicked, that we need to get moving. We are in planning stages. I guess for BNP Paribas, we are in general struggling a bit with getting kind of in-person participation at speaker events and things like that. So I'm trying not to kind of blow the budget on a major speaker to only have sort of 10 people in the room. So really we're focusing on trying to be as engaging as possible and impactful, and maybe doing some smaller kind of workshops externally hosted with some women in the network. We've done before in the past actually a kind of senior women in BNP video and photo series around the building. So I think we might try and do something like that again, but agree with kind of the power of storytelling. It's just about the format that works best for us for that. Maybe it's over a breakfast or something instead. But so yeah, it's all a little bit up in the air, but we're doing a lot with our charity partners as well. So I think we're doing something with SmartWorks. We've worked with them before and they're brilliant. So so yeah, all a bit up in the air, but feeling very inspired from this call. So
well, hopefully you'll come around. We're here to help you, can point you in the right direction. So what about Dominica at Hiscox? What are you guys up to? If she's still with us.
Sorry, hi, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hiya.
It's unable to access my camera because
Don't
I've not
worry.
used my usual profile. But yeah, I was just catching up with the women at Hiscox yesterday because we had a planning session for 2023. So still in planning stages, trying to consider, you know, what we can do for the rest of the year. We had a speaker attend, Harriet Minter.
Yeah, we love Harriet. On our board.
She's brilliant. So that probably garnered a bit of interest. So just trying to work on the back of that to try and plan something for March, and getting really good ideas from what you're saying here, actually, about collaborating. I think you did also put us in contact with Aqua as well, who provided some leads for some other kind of planning work that we're doing for the year. So it's been really great, actually, having this network to be able to kind of get ideas from and network with. But nothing firmed up as yet, but definitely something that we're kind of trying to make the most of and planning time for.
Fabulous. Good. Well, I think we've got time for a couple more. What about Melissa at Commerce Bank? We've still got Melissa with us? Or Helen from Microfocus?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
We're still very much in the planning phase. We're also being acquired by OpenText in a few weeks or 1 week. So that's all is up in the air for us. But I thought the UN theme there around technology and digital sounds extremely interesting. So I think we'll probably follow up on that and explore that further. But this has been a really great session. So thank you all.
Good. Okay, I think I've got time for one more before we follow up, and I can give you all some time back. What about Victoria in Marsat? Have I got Victoria with me?
I am here.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Hi. So yeah, we're still in the planning stage. This was really helpful to me because you presented these options of using the other themes, which was really nice because we had a hard time when we were thinking about our activities and trying to match it up with the theme. So that is really appreciated. One of the things I thought was interesting was the UN theme, so the digital, right? So I think that's really neat. We're a satellite services company, so I feel like that might be right in our wheelhouse. We are very blessed with having a great relationship with the women that were on the Maiden, which was a all-female sailing crew. And because we provided the satellite services for that work, we've just maintained this wonderful relationship with them. And so we have the ability to have her come to speak with us. So we're going to have a showing of that film and then probably have a conversation with some people from that crew. So we're very excited about that. And this call today has given us a lot of really good ideas also.
Good. Excellent. And I'm going to do one more. Shauna Makari.
Hi, Tori. It's me. I hope everyone can hear me. Yeah, so we've gone beyond the brainstorming and we're deep into the planning in terms of what's happening. So we run a International Women's Day quiz every year. So it's like 240 people will come together. We actually have a pub quiz in the building, and there's a charity that's selected that will get basically the benefit of that night. And through our foundation, everything that's raised will be matched by Macquarie. So I think we've got 2 or 3 charities that have been shortlisted that we're looking at the moment. That's a huge big event, and from a networking perspective for both males and females across the bank, bringing everyone together. Secondly, then we have our International Women's Day Role Model Awards. So it's an opportunity where we open up for nominations basically across the region for individuals to be nominated that demonstrate those good practices of role modeling for DEI. And year on year, the number of people that are being nominated is getting bigger and bigger, which makes it really, really hard for the committee to shortlist everyone, but it's been a huge success. And we also replicate that for International Men's Day as well. And then we're also having on the 1st of March, a internal senior female leads panel event. So we'll bring together 3 senior leads across various different businesses in the organization and really listen to them in terms of part of this team, and just for those individuals to help us kind of understand their career journey, the challenges they've had as senior females, and I suppose what guidance that they can give to those participants. So at the moment, the 3 main things that we're working on. So yeah, pretty busy.
So fabulous. So many ideas there for you guys, whether, you know, you've got small budgets and you want to do things that are virtual, you know, whether or not you've got slightly bigger budgets and you're looking for speakers and stuff, remember, come talk to us on that one. But there's also going to be loads of different things that are going on for International Women's Day. So one of the things that we do at We Are the City, we create a whole section on IWD with stories and things like that, but also we populate our events calendar. So as my team continue to populate that over the next couple of weeks, that could be something that you share just in case people want to go to things externally. So for example, one of the things that should definitely be on your wish list, I'm actually a speed mentor for them, is the WOW Festival, normally sponsored by Bloomberg, a whole myriad of incredible women that get together over at South Bank Centre. That talk at that festival. So I think some of it's free, but do have a look at that. It's called, as I say, it's called the WOW Festival. It's over on the South Bank. So that's one of the kind of big things that kind of go on. So, and then obviously keep your eye out on our calendar. One of the things that we're asking all of our clients to do, and Shauna lines me up quite nicely there around awards. So a lot of you know that we have our Rising Star Awards open at the moment. I've just put the link in the group. In fact, we've got probably a couple of winners on this call that have won our Rising Stars before. They are 23 different categories that you can nominate in. It costs you nothing to nominate. We're looking for women below director level. So some of our clients have kindly done, you know, why don't you raise the profile of a woman and nominate her for an award? It only takes a couple of minutes to nominate someone. The platform's really super easy. So that might be something else. You know, how do you raise and lift others as you climb, whether it's my awards or whether it's another one. But we'll definitely be calling on men around International Women's Day to raise the profile of other women through something like this. So, you know, I would be a fool if I didn't mention it while I've kind of got you all on. And also, if you're going to do anything around the tech theme, do come and talk to us as well, because obviously we are Tech Women, a hell of a lot going on in that space this year with 3 different virtual festivals and in person for women in tech and different charities that we're working off, and obviously our Big Leaders one, which a number of you on this call sponsored and kindly supporting us for that. So yeah, so anything on the tech side, do come and talk to us. And I know, for example, Akua from LSEG has done a load of kind of tech kit donations and stuff like that. So there's quite a lot of schools that could probably do with your help. And again, between us, we can probably connect you into them as well. So brilliant. So thank you everyone who contributed. Leona will parcel up the deck and Big its video, because I realized that although you could hear her, you couldn't necessarily see her, so know what was going on there, but it's embedded in the video and I've put the link in the chat anyway, so you can go and have a watch of that. But if we can help you in any way, again, speakers, anything that you're thinking of doing, if you just want to bounce ideas, that's what we're here for. That's what your membership pays for. And other than that, I will see you, hopefully some of you in person. I think it's on the 8th, should know my own dates, for Gender Networks. We'll be looking at the results of the survey and some of the things that's coming out of there. And I've seen some of the data. It's quite interesting in its pockets. So looking forward to seeing you that. And we also have Joy Burnford, who is the author of the new book, Don't Fix Women. So she'll be at that. There'll be a bit of speed networking, so you get to meet each other. So I hope that some of you can make that for our first meeting of the year. But if not, you'll get the document, the survey results circulated anyway. Good. Okay. Thank you ever so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.